All right, ladies, we are finishing up on Chapter 5, How It Works of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are at the bottom of page 68. Now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there, but above all, we tried to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes. Absurd extremes, perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation. Then we have the voices that cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough of it, that it isn't the right kind. They see its significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. We all have sex problems. We hardly'd be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? So before we discuss what we can do about it, let's discuss that paragraph because there's an extremely important line there, especially if you are sponsoring. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. I do not have rules for my girls. I do not have requirements. Do not get in a relationship in your first year. Do not do this. We are not the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. I do have a hard rule about if you see someone causing harm with their conduct, I speak up. I speak up directly to them. Otherwise, you're gossiping. So if you see somebody doing something, say a step 13, you speak to that person directly and with grace. We don't start talking about them behind their back that they're a 13-stepper because that's gossip. But if we see someone causing harm, we speak up. That's my rule of thumb. Take it as you will. But I'm not the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. I am here to guide them spiritually, as it says in the book, to their ideals through God. So, y'all can have your own opinion. Does anyone want to discuss it? Leslie P.
Hi. Step 13, what's that?
My life is unmanageable and I'd like to help you. Step 1 plus step 12 together. It's typically when someone with longer sobriety gets involved with someone new in sobriety.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter what sex. Men and women do it equally in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And for obvious reasons, it's frowned upon. If someone is in their early days of recovery, they typically have low self-esteem and they're seeking validation, which is what we're working on in this step 4.
Okay.
Yes. Questions, comments?
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Jane.
I'm Jane. Hi, I'm Jane. I'm an alcoholic. I just wanted to share a funny story. So I'm coming up to a year next week. And on day 4 of my first year, I went to a Sunday afternoon Big Book meeting near my house because I knew nothing about the Big Book, and it was a line by line. There were about 12 people there, and we were going around the room, each person taking a section of the book. And I had never read the whole book before because I was on day 4. I only got my book the day before. I didn't even know what was on this page. And wouldn't you know it? God had a plan. And I got to read the whole sex section to a group of men in their 60s. It was great. So every time I see this section or I think about this section, I remember that day and I wish I could have been a fly on the wall and seen the look on my face or heard my voice. I got through it, but I will never forget that day ever. And AA is wonderful, and thank you so much for doing this. It's really wonderful to go through the book in such detail with such a great group of people. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And one reason, like, I really, like, I've heard this bastardized a million times in the room when people are the arbitrators of other people's sex conduct. And just think, we are not relationships experts. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure I can speak for the entire group that we are not relationship experts. That is probably the farthest thing from us that we are. All we can do is follow what this book suggests and try to do better. But I still don't think I ever will be a relationship expert in the position to offer advice. I'm able to speak on my experience of what's worked and not worked and show people what the book tells me to do. Lauren.
Hi everyone, Lauren Alcoholic. I just wanted to see everyone. I haven't really been able to make it off. Bosses is here today. So, I just wanted to add to embellish on what you were saying. So for me, my sponsor said no relationship in the first year. And I met somebody at IOP. And I thought he was on the right track. I was on the right track. So that woman would not work with me anymore. And I ended up, so I chose the relationship over my sobriety. And my boyfriend's sponsor, who he was doing really good with, would not work with him anymore if he was in a relationship. So he chose me over his sobriety. And I really regret it because he ended up relapsing. Praise the Lord, I did not. But I still look back, I hindered his growth by being with him. And he hindered my growth. Because looking back, I now see I was in no business getting involved with a new person, whether it be man, whoever, when I had so much work to do on myself. And so it stunted my sobriety, very much so. Finally, I'd say about 2 years ago, I was really able to start doing the work because I stopped really caring about him, to be honest with you. And I realized that now I'm like, well, that's why they say it, And I had a girl I'm still working with, who's still sober. But I'll tell you what, she came very close to picking up a drink because of the emotional turmoil that relationship was causing her. And looking back, if I could change it, I would not get involved with anybody because I really needed that time to work on myself, which is why I do, for me, I didn't stop working with the girl because she was in a relationship, but I strongly suggested, she didn't. And let me tell you what, the difference I see in her after ending that horrible relationship is unbelievable. The growth I see in her. And also the growth I see in myself now. Even though it's been over 5 years, I look back and say, man, I should have taken that first year or even 2 to really get to know myself and grow. Because you know what? I would be a better girlfriend today. I would. But I'm working on it. So I just wanted to chime in because that's a personal experience I had, and I just wanted to put it out there for mine. That's all I got. Thank you.
That's right. And that's exactly what I'm speaking to. I do not recommend relationships in the first year, but I do not put that rule. But I can offer my experience to them and tell them why I don't suggest it, right? It's like, I don't recommend being in a relationship in your first year. This is why. I think setting a hard, fast rule is being an arbiter of someone else's. Sorry, Marianne, I'm trying to click you and talk and watch my kids deal with the dog at the same time.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic. My name's Marianne, and you just answered my question. What do you say to somebody that you see getting taken, distracted away from what they need to do? So thank you for that, because I don't want to give anybody rules, because I know I don't like rules. It just triggers something in me, then I don't want to do the work. So thank you for giving us that advice.
Yes, and from experience, what happens is you put yourself in a position of not being able to be helpful when you do that. And I always want to come from the stance of I want to be helpful. So I say, I highly recommend you don't get involved with someone in this early in your sobriety. Here's why. Here's what I've experienced, and here's what I've seen happen. But I'm going to be here to help you either way. And I'd like you to talk to me so we can guide you through courting, through healthy relationships, because there's different language we can say than a hard no, I won't work with you if you're in a relationship. That I have a hard problem with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Leslie B.
Okay, hi, Leslie here. Just stuck on this sentence here, and it's probably in the vernacular of the 30s. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. What does that mean?
Well, my interpretation, so back in the 30s, typically people got married young and were married for a long time. So if you're on a straight pepper diet, you're only having pepper. But
You're only having sex with that one person?
But if you're having flavor, it tends to lead to the assumption that you're having more than just pepper. Because you got to remember the times. This is the 1930s. There wasn't a lot of dating, divorce. You were with one person from usually straight out of high school.
Okay.
So it is the times, right? Dating has changed a lot since the 1930s.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I was doing on my ancestry. My father was born in 1935. My grandmother was in a relationship with my grandfather, who was a married man. And she had my dad out of wedlock. And she had to go into a home for unwed mothers.
Yep.
And when I read that, he was a bastard, and she did not know the name of the father.
Or she hid it.
Pardon?
Or she hid it to hide his identity.
She hid it.
Right?
And that just, it really pissed me off.
Is that on your list? Love you. Joanne.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne. I'm an alcoholic addict. And I love this section because I have such great experience, strength, and hope about this. So my first AWOL, which was, for those that don't know, it's a collection of alcoholics going through the big book and the steps and everything. But I was 23 years old, and I was in this mixed group, and I was the youngest. And they all started talking about sex and how, complicated it was for them and all this stuff. And then the guy leading it turns to me and he says, "So how about you?" And I said, "Well, do you want me to lie to you or tell you the truth?" And he goes, "Oh, give it a shot. Tell the truth." I said, "I have no problem with sex. I just can't talk to them before or after." And for me, that was true. I had, in my own way, figured out how to manipulate men, how to be safe with them, how to get what I want and everything. But don't talk to me before or afterwards. That's intimacy. I'm out of here. And it was through working the steps, that I eventually learned as my sponsor would say, into me see. It's where I learned to see what was going on with me. And then one day when I actually, crossed over from a friend to a loving relationship, I started crying, and I couldn't stop crying because I had never felt intimacy before. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, I'm crying. Oh my God, I'm healing in areas I didn't even know I was sick in. And I was so grateful. The other thing about first year, I have quick story. I got sober with young people. So I went to this dance, and my sponsor had suggested, don't do anything you're not willing to tell me. And so, anyways, I was at this dance. This guy asked me to dance. I felt weird afterwards. And I thought, I'm in love. So I go home and I call my sponsor. I think I'm in love. And she goes, well, don't lay down and don't sign anything. And 10 years later, I run into him, and it's at a conference, and there was dancing, and he asked me to dance, and I realized that I wasn't in love, but the way he slowed dance made me dizzy. That's all it was. But I was early sobriety, had no clue what the hell was going on, and just made these assumptions. And thank God for my sponsor who said, don't do anything you're not willing to tell me. And I am grateful that, and I eventually realized by not having a boyfriend in my first year, I didn't need a boyfriend. I needed a brother. And I developed a whole lot of brothers that would save my ass and carry me when I needed a male perspective, and I didn't have to complicate it of, oh, I can't talk to him. I've dated him, you know? And so I love this. And there's so much healing if you work the program. And that's it. Thanks.
There's so much healing on these 2 pages. Man, if you get this now and you're in your early recovery, you're saving yourself a whole lot of hurt. Marianne.
Hi, Marianne, alcoholic. I had a reverend once say, and it makes so much sense. He said that 2 dead batteries can't start an engine. And, you know, if you take somebody who has sobriety and you don't, well, your battery is drained. So what are you going to do to his? You're going to drain his. I've been in a relationship where it's been the other way, where I've been drained. Which eventually led me to a drink, which is not good. So I just always put it out as, you know, 2 dead batteries can't start an engine, and let them figure it out. So thank you.
Thank you. And a lot of what happens is the person with lesser spiritual fitness puts the other person in a position of being the higher power. Or the relationship comes to the higher power and you're blocked. So it's not so cut and dry. There's lots of pieces. Della, I saw you waving.
Yes. So does this apply to a new relationship? Like, what if you're already in one in long term, but this is still your first year? Like, is it?
Yeah. So I came into the program or the fellowship in a relationship. So obviously, when we come into the program in a relationship, we've not been making the best choices before. So it can be a really tangled web. And I'm going to speak from experience. Unless both partners are working on themselves, if both are alcoholics, both need to be working on themselves. If one is an alcoholic and one is a normie, that normie needs to be an Al-Anon. Otherwise, telling you, 99% of the relationships that come into AA don't last if one person gets sober and gets a spiritual experience. You leapfrog, you outgrow the relationship, and you just have to remember your picker was broken when you picked it. And then you become a different person, and it's a whole different ball of wax. And I've had experience, so if you need to chat about it, we can do a whole nother hour on that.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Kim.
Yeah. Kelly D.
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for service today. Hi, everybody. This has been really great. You know, I was thinking about coming into the program and, you know, reading this with my sponsor. You know, I was engaged and I got married after 5 months of sobriety, and my husband relapsed. And everybody told me, get rid of him. You can't be with him. And, you know, and it was really scary. And he's celebrating 10 years on the 13th, June 13th. And I had 11 years, May 3rd. And we sought outside help. And working with sponsees and reading this also taught me that, you know, sometimes people pick up people because they don't want to focus on themselves. It's so easy. The alcoholic picks up the alcohol. Then we put down the alcohol, and then we start picking up people. And then, you know, another program taught me the 3 C's. You can't cure it, you can't control it, and you didn't cause it. So, you know, keeping the focus on myself really helps me because my husband works a program and I work a program. And I need to stay out of his program because sometimes I like to mind my own business. And that takes the focus off me. And working with sponsees also, like, there's a lot of sponsees that I've had, you know, I still have some that like to work, you know, with others and be involved with others that don't have time. So it's just, you know, it is a slippery slope sometimes, but again, we're not professionals for professional advice. So thanks again. And I'm going to keep listening and learning.
Thank you so much. Okay, I just want to speak because I saw a lot of people crushed when we just talked about people who are in relationships coming in. I want to say one thing. Trust this process. We are going to walk you through a process right now that I know worked for me. Okay, Della, you're breaking my heart. Trust it. Look at it. Follow it through. Talk to us each step of the way because we have experience and we share that experience very openly. But write it out. Follow this. Follow your heart. Talk to God because we are going to do a process on the next page that I am telling you fucking works. Okay? It works. So trust the process and come through this. I know a lot of us are, some of us are further on, some of us are in relationships, some of us are single. We collectively have experiences in everything you're going through. Everything. I happen to be a specialist in toxic, abusive relationships with alcoholics and addicts. And I'm seeing some heads nodding. And I also can tell you, I am navigating a very healthy relationship in recovery now, and I've fucked up a lot in between. So trust me, this process works if you work it. We say that a lot, okay? So don't give up and get discouraged. We're all hopeless. Come on, there can't be anything worse than where we're already at. All right, Glorianne, I'm just going to go to you real quick, and then we got to keep going, love. Okay, I'll try to get to Yvonne too. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Hi, ladies. Thank you, Kim. I need to talk to you very seriously. Anyway, yeah, I had the broken picker and, picked up substances and alcohol and then, picked up people that had that kind of dysfunction. And both to me serve to, this is just my opinion, they serve to distract from the progress of recovery, of uncovering all this stuff. And then there's other motivating factors as to why. And I'm actually still working on that. My first husband, I wasn't sober. I was dry. And he had 12 years of quote unquote sobriety, but it was so dry. He didn't go to meetings, His father would give him a coin and he'd clasp it and say, there, before the grace of God go I. And I just figured, okay, this one is a good one to hide with. And that's what I did. And it prolonged. And now I'm with someone who I knew for many years in the rooms, and but is relapsing all the time. So it's very cunning, baffling, and powerful. And I just keep taking care of myself right now. I go to a couple meeting, which is interesting to see how people navigate the waters of being two alcoholics or addicts or codependent and addict, whatever, in relationships, and they do it very successfully because they're working a program, and that's the key. Anyway, that's all. I don't want to take a lot of time. I need to talk to you.
Y'all are welcome to talk to me. Trust me, I have a lot of experience on this page. Tons. Books full of it. All right. And it's funny, it's one of those other things, learning. And I had one person, and I'm going to get to it, tell me something over and over and over again. And I'm going to tell you what that person told me, and I rolled my eyes every time, but it worked. And I'm going to tell you about it. But first, we're going to get to some fun stuff. Why not? We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Yay! Where had we been selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? Not blame, not part, fault. What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. So again, I've got a instruction. So I don't do worksheets. I take the instructions out of the book and I lay it out for you. And then I'm going to actually post you my sex inventory because I am transparent in my relationships and with everyone. So this, I don't care if this gets out. I don't. So sex inventory. We review our conduct over the past. So this means we are going to write a brief paragraph. Brief. describing the relationship. So my example is Tony, not Big Book Tony. I have 2 other exes named Tony. His ex is named Kim too. It's so funny because he shares about his ex Kim and I share about my ex Tony. They're not the same. Okay. So Tony, dated long distance, clearly didn't want a relationship, didn't engage. I pursued, used as a safety net. He fit my brand. That is in brief description of the relationship. It is not a glorified description. Okay. So then we have Kyle, sex with the ex. There's a really good description, right? I've already done an inventory on the relationship, so this is simply sex with ex. I can't even say this one out loud, so I'm just going to say guy number 3 because half of you will fall off your chairs. A week of fun texting, 2 dates, right? So it's very simple. And then we've got guy number 3, hung out for 2 weeks, kissed only, right? So simple. If it's a little more descriptive, so we get to my current, right? Had a friendship, began talking more in depth, didn't seem interested, seems amazing, began flirting, started dating, right? Very brief descriptions. We don't want to get into glorified detail. So then we want to say, where had I been? And I just do it A, selfish, B, dishonest, C, inconsiderate. And then I write it out. Same format. Selfish, dishonest, inconsistent, inconsiderate. Selfish. I needed a boyfriend. That's pretty selfish. I need a boyfriend. I needed a safety net. It completes my picture. Dishonest. Well, I was dishonest to myself. He told me he wasn't interested in a relationship, so I was dishonest to myself in pursuing with the delusion. Inconsiderate to his wants, to my children's time and needs, to my business, to my friends. How many times did I call my girlfriends complaining about him? That's pretty inconsiderate, right? There's lots of different examples of inconsiderate. Whom did I hurt? Myself, my kids, my friends, him. You can hurt your family members if you introduce them to your family members. You can hurt your career if you minimize your career in order to chase a guy. Who hasn't done that, right? Or your friendships, your sponsee relationships. I can't help you today because I got to run out there. Or I got a date with Della tonight. Della, I can't make it. Something came out because he says he's free. Stuff like that. And then I just do, did I unjustifiably arouse? 1, 2, 3. Jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness. So in this instance, it was no, no, no. If it was a yes, then I would describe it. Yes, I went out to a meeting and I wore a short skirt and I looked hot because I wanted him to be jealous, right? Stuff like that. Where was I at fault? I ignored red flags. I stayed too long. I left after and didn't leave after intentions didn't match. Fell in love with potential. I love that one. I'm really good at that one. Painting red flags green. That's another good one. I'm a master painter. Green paint was on sale that day and I bought gallons, right? I'm just like out painting every red flag green. Okay, so then it's, what should I have done instead? Left after the intentions didn't match. Not painted red flags green. The list can go on forever, right? Set firm boundaries. Discussed intentions. What is your intention? Does it match mine? Do I owe this person an amends? Yes or no? And then at the bottom, I have something I added. Do I need to tie up any loose ends? This I added because when I'm navigating a new relationship, one of my wonderful defects was I'd leave a few loose ends just in case. So if it's someone that I've been romantically involved with or been on dates with, I just added that question just for myself. It is not in the big book. Do I need to tie up loose ends? Because I like to leave things hanging just in case, right? I like safety nets. I tie loose ends up now. All right. That's that. Questions, comments, concerns. The floor is open. Yvonne. Yvonne?
Hey, yeah,
There you
I was
go.
trying to find my unmute thing. Kind of going back a little bit, my marriage, 35 years, he still drinks. Anyway, but all of this makes a lot of sense to me. Now my question is, this that we're going to do, is this about everybody we dated and had sex with? One night stands.
This includes the trainer at the gym you flirt with to get free personal training. This includes the bartender at the bar where you flirted with them to get free drinks. This includes the situation where you wore a low-cut top to get what you wanted. This can include your Tinder profile. This can include masturbation. If you've never done this process, you got lots of fun stuff. So yeah.
I don't know if I had much time. Okay, thank you.
You can lump it together. Okay, so if you flirted with 10 bartenders, just do bartenders. If you tend to, there's some girls that may or may not have gone to the bar and had a numerous one-night stands. You can lump one-night stands together. Don't painfully go through it. There's a lot that you can lump together, but definitely specific relationships or things where you saw the person multiple times, and you should put them down separately. But yeah, if you're a constant, I don't want to use the word, but one night stander, you can just put multiple one night stands. Don't put one night stand as if you've only had one. Write it down so you're acknowledging multiple one night stands, please. Yeah. Well, if you can remember the blackouts, then write those down too. But if you don't, maybe just have a category for that one. But like me, one of the ones that I had was I still go to the gym early in the morning, and there was a personal trainer that was kind of greasy, and I would purposefully be extra flirty with him because his 6 o'clock would always cancel, so I would get free personal training. That's not good behavior, right? That's dishonest. So if you had been involved in the sex trade in any way, that goes on. That includes webcam, stripping, all of the sex trades. Do them separately if that is part of your story. Put it on there. Craigslist, yeah, all of them. You did phone sex back in the 80s. Write it down. Okay. Leslie P. shaking her head at me.
Okay. Question now.
Yes.
In a relationship, once again, 40 years. Had a 6-year breakup. Now married, back together for 31 or 32.
Do it separately. I'm just going to cut you off. Do it separately. First time together, second time together.
Okay.
Was that the question?
No, but that answers that question.
Okay.
Okay, so if Facebook messaging somebody.
Write it down.
Okay. And
Yes, Leslie, write it down. You don't have to go into detail. Most definitely. Bev?
So, like the fifth part it said, did I arouse? Number 1, jealousy. What were the other 2?
Number 2 is suspicion.
Okay.
And number 3 is bitterness.
Okay.
So jealousy would be wearing that hot red dress and going to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Suspicion would be being kind of elusive to make them think you're up to something, which would make them jealous, right? But you're arousing suspicion. And bitterness is doing things on purpose to piss them off, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I do them. So what I do is I'll put up my little template, and then what I do is I literally name at the top. Oh, it's upside down. Name at the top, description, and then I write down it, and I write my shit beside it. Right? And like, you can do point form. You don't have to write big long sentences because we know what we did. Unless it was a blackout, and then be blackout. Catherine.
Thank you. Catherine, alcoholic. I'm really glad we're talking about this because I think the sex conduct part is always confusing. I don't know if this is okay to mention this here. I was very fortunate to attend 3 different Joe and Charlie Big Book studies back in the late 80s and early 90s. And so a lot of my materials came out of those studies, which was right out of the Big Book. So I too have a little cheat sheet that I use for sex conduct. There it is. And I think you and I, Kim, must have the same list about the sex conduct. So I think the best important when I work sex conduct with myself, with my sponsor, or with other people, for me, this is the inventory portion that talks about how I've harmed other people. That is the underlying purpose for writing about sex conduct, because really what we're talking about isn't so much the sex, the pepper, the cottage cheese, whatever we want to talk about here for food. What we're talking about is my underlying need for comfort, and what I do to make sure that I'm satisfied, comfort-wise. Sex covers that whole, it's kind of like this little umbrella thing. And so when I go in to talk to people about, we're going to do an inventory about your sex conduct, most people just kind of, they're like the road runner. They can't get out of your house fast enough, okay? Yeah. Or out of the Starbucks fast enough. So, because we're going to be doing this in public, right? No, we're not. We're going to be doing this in private. So I think that's the most important part, is the underlying reason for writing about the nature of our wrongs as far as sex conduct is concerned, whether it's food, retail therapy, gambling, sex, whatever it is that I'm doing that I thought the alcohol was doing for me to, fulfill my needs for comfort, for self-nurturing. And I always did the sick shit for nurturing, for the self-nurturing. So we want to turn that corner, and that's part of what's so important about working the sex conduct in our 4th step and 5th step, because a lot of us don't want to, I know I sat there with my hands literally like this in front of my sponsor while I was doing this portion, because I knew she would be shocked when she heard some of the things that I had to tell her. And when I finally was able to look at her and see how badly she was reacting to all this, she was trying to stay awake, okay? And she's like, come on, Catherine, let's hurry this up. Everybody's done this shit. Let's just hurry this up and get to the nature of the wrong, that 4th column. And a lot of it was, I was just inconsiderate. I was selfish. I was dishonest about all my reasons. I'm having sex with people so I can have a free meal and not thinking that's not prostitution. Give me a break. That's what it is. I'm using and abusing people for my own comfort. And I think that's the underlying purpose for writing about our sex conduct, is that nature of the wrong. It isn't all the little things we did, that embarrass the hell out of us, or we're ashamed of, or like we're already anticipating, how do I say I'm sorry to somebody? Don't anticipate that. Just get in there and talk about where it is, where my discomfort level really, what's the foundation of my discomfort level. Enough preaching out of me. Thank you, lady.
Thank you. Well, yeah, and you know what? Like, how many of us, when we were in our addiction and our alcoholism, had healthy relationships? Show of hands. Yeah, I didn't think so, right? So if we want to have a healthy relationship, we got to look at what the heck we were doing wrong, right? Like, if I keep scratching my car, I got to go, okay, is there something wrong with my driving? Right? Like, I got to self-correct there somewhere by looking at what the problem is. I can't find out what the solution is if I don't look at the problem. So we got to put it on paper and take a big ugly look at our sex conduct. Joanne. Oh, and I must say, Catherine, cottage cheese when referring to sex kills me. Joanne, you're up.
I just want to continue on with what Catherine was saying is, especially when I got to do, my 5th step with regarding sex on my 4th step, I picked a sponsor that was in her past was a badass. I mean, I just thought she could handle like everything. But she was also with recovery now, a woman of really grace and honor. And I admired her a lot. But what I wanted from her when I shared my sex issues with her on my 5th step, I wanted her to gasp. I wanted her to like, oh my God. I wanted her to kind of tell me how bad I was. And when I got done, she looked at me and she said, your story is so sad. And I wanted to friggin' hit her. I was so mad because that was the truth. That things that happened early in life set me up to do the things that I did later in life. So I just want to be able to say that while you're doing this, leave the judgment at the door. Kind of like when you look at what you did when you're drinking, don't forget that you were an alcoholic. Yes, we are accountable for our actions, but we also are sick and suffering people. And we did what we did under the influence. And we loved people and we chose people because we were just doing the very best we can. And now with doing the steps, we can do better. But there was such great healing when she was able to love me at a way and accept me like, wow, you were hurting really bad and this was the only way you could deal with things, but now you can do it differently. And I've always thanked her for her kindness and understanding. That's what I want to share. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, quick group conscience. There's a lot more. Do we want to keep going or do we want to stop and do some work and continue? Stop? Okay. So I'm going to read one more paragraph because it kind of finishes up what we were talking about, and then we'll continue on Friday. All right. So in this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideas and help us live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. And I just wanted to end with that paragraph today because we want to just subject each relation to, was this selfish or not? Okay, because we want to get out of selfish relationships and into the not selfish relationships. And we're going to talk about that next time. But I want to emphasize that last bit. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, never to be used lightly or selfishly, as we had been doing. But they're not to be despised or loathed. So if we do have some dark things in our sex past, it's not to be despised or loathed. We can use it to help others. We see how our experience can benefit others. Most of the time, the women that I work with have the exact same experiences as I did. And so I'm able to say, me too, it's okay. And they go, wow, really? And I say, yeah. And so this is where we don't despise or loathe those experiences. We see how they benefit others, and how they benefit others is when we work with other people and we can say, yeah, me too. Okay, so we'll just kind of end the recording there.